If an earthquake ever hit Sebring International Raceway during the motor race, the drivers probably wouldn't notice any difference. Hello everyone, and strap in for a bumpy ride as the Batteries Not Included Championship arrives in Florida for round 9, and you'll get to watch all of the action unfold live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Samuel Ryman, and alongside me in the booth is Johan Vandervelde. Behind the scenes doing all of the button pushing is our director Sean Ambrose, and he's using camera sets provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, Sebring has only ever played host to Formula 1 once, and that was all the way back in 1959. Since then, the track has mainly played host to various sports car races, including of course the 12 Hours of Sebring, and the surface has gotten very, very bumpy.
Yeah, I agree. The drivers probably have to make an extra appointment with the dentist after the race to check the filling, because boy, this track is very, very bumpy. Sebring International Raceway, it was originally constructed in 1950. Now, after World War II, the old Air Force training base was converted into a racetrack, and on New Year's Day 1950, cars raced at Sebring for the very first time. Throughout the years, Sebring has seen its fair share of racing categories, including, like you just mentioned, Sam, Formula 1. The very first official American Grand Prix was actually held here in Florida, with Bruce McLaren beating his teammate Treating Young by 0.6 of a second. The first version of Sebring, where this race was actually held, is quite a bit different than the one we race on today, and I highly recommend searching the old layout after the race because it's truly something special. All corners but one of the original layout are blocky 45 or 90 degrees turns, a bit like the old Adelaide Formula 1 track on steroids. After numerous track changes, however, Sebring has lost its original face, but not its charm. It still captures the feeling of driving on an old airfield with several concrete sections dotting the 6-kilometer lap. Drivers will feel like you're in a bouncy castle, and to see how that looks like, let's hop on board the GSRC FW31 for a lap around Sebring.
Alright, we've got Clayton McLeod in the GSRC Williams, so let's do a lap around Sebring. On the run of the first turn, you can see just how horrendously bumpy this track is. That makes the fact that there's no braking and just a lift through here all the more terrifying. The track narrows up on exit, so try not to run wide. Then from there, it's a short burst to 3. Keep off the curbs here as the track weaves back and forth so that the car stays planted. And then, as you reach turn 5, look to square off the exit because a good run will be incredibly valuable. Big Bend is a non-corner in a modern Formula 1 car, so this essentially becomes one fast stretch down to the hairpin. This is one of the more ideal places to make a pass happen, but it'll be easy to outbrake yourself. Also, you've got to worry about traction coming off this slow turn and keep from getting wheel spin. You'll blast through Fangio until things straighten out for Cunningham. This is another overtaking spot, but it's difficult to execute. It's bumpy once again, and it switches back into Collier, meaning you'll need to be fully by your opponent so that they don't hold you off on the inside. After that, Tower has one of the toughest braking zones of the circuit with its kinked entry, and it's another one with a tall curb inside that you ought to avoid. Then you've got to get back on the gas as soon as you can because you won't lift through Bishop. It's really not a good thing if you wind up side by side heading into Jean Dembienne. This is such a fast chicane that you can easily tangle or slow each other up. Plus, you need to focus on setting up the entry for Le Mans. It dumps you onto the Ullman Straight, which is the longest acceleration zone of the track. Fail to get a run onto here and you'll be a sitting duck. But if you wind up going wheel to wheel entering into Sunset Bend, watch out. This is where the bumps return and you're braking shockingly late into this long corner. Finding your way back to the throttle without spinning the car will be a real trick, even with the downforce you've got on hand. But hopefully, if you kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Sebring.
Alright everyone, the lap guide is over. You can stabilize your monitors, take a breather. You're okay now, you survived it. Alright, let's take a look at something that won't jump around as much, and that is the point standings, because we're quite deep into the season, and you'll see not only is this graphic not going to jump around a whole lot, but the positions haven't jumped around a whole lot as well as we get deeper into the season and everyone solidifies where they are, with the exception of our driver down there, 5th in the points, up 7 positions. Ziga has definitely been doing well towards the end of the season. Someone who has not been doing as well towards this tail end of the season as what he was at the start of the year, Clayton McLeod, has hit a lot of misfortune recently, and that has really allowed Joseph Fabian to open up his points lead. It's going to be tricky, but not impossible, for McLeod to claw back 37 points with just 4 races left to go. And what about Pavetta? He's only 46 points back as well. Johan?
Yeah, looking at the race details of today, we're currently on 2/3 of the season, round 9 of our 12-round season. As you could just see in the previous screen, there are 4 drop weeks this championship, and battery is not included, which means that the top 8 results of the drivers will be used in the championship standings. The race today at Sebring, the race length will be 34 laps. The setups are open, so drivers can tweak their setup just to the liking, and they have to deal with a 67% fuel tank. This means that the drivers have to make one stop as they bounce around this track. The incident cap is end here. Drivers can go off track without being penalized, but there will be penalties for people that abuse that limit. And so it's not like they can go off track whenever they want. And the points are based on the official iRacing points. So looking at the strength of field is 2600, a little bit over it today, which means that the winner today, especially with this 19-car field, actually gets a fair share of points in the run for the championship.
So qualifying has just started. These drivers are going to have 10 minutes, and virtually all of the drivers instantly out on track, because lap time around here is about 1.5 to 1 minute and 40 seconds. So 1.5 minutes to 1 minute and 40 seconds. So that means if you make a mistake so much as put the wheel on, or heaven forbid spin around and crash into the wall when you have to take a tow all the way back to the pits and do an outlap again, well, that 10 minutes is going to fly by in a hurry. You really need to get out here soon, Johan. Get on your program and try and get as many time laps in as you can and make them clean, because you might not have a whole lot of opportunities.
No, and I'm actually curious if drivers will actually slow down the first lap and really put in a banker lap, a lap in which they just make sure they don't make any mistakes. Maybe they're 2, 3, 4 seconds slower than they normally are allowed to be, but at least they have a lap which can rival maybe at least with the people a bit further down the grid. People really have to make sure, like you say, Sam, they do not make mistakes out there, because taking that tow and going back to the pits will really hurt them. Well, talking about that, Michael Haflidason already made a mistake. This is, I think, in turn 3-4 that he actually loops it around. He's currently still sitting in the grass. He's actually continuing. He's not taking a tow yet, but that will hurt him and actually might have damaged his front wing as well.
It's almost like what we say doing endurance racing here in qualifying. If you're going to have a problem, get done with early. You got time to bounce back throughout the second half of a qualifying session. The first driver, by the way, who will turn a timed lap is Thomas Ziga, running in the old Renault F1 paint scheme that Fernando Alonso had so much success in. Here we go, we get him on screen right now as he is about to work his way down this long back straight and up into Sunset Bend at turn 17 of this 17-turn course. Shortly following Ziga is Bishar, who has been a strong qualifier this season, but also very, very good at the starts of the race, and if he can qualify towards the front, it's a safe bet that he might be leading through turns 1 and 2. Now the lap times starting to hit the board.
Joseph Fabian and Marcus Gestel were just behind them. Both of them actually had to cancel the lap as Marcus Gestel had a spin in the last corner, and Joseph Fabian tried to avoid them and hit the outside wall since I bet hard, and he actually had to take a tow. So Joseph Fabian has to wait several minutes before he can put in his first quali lap of today.
There's a bit of a new paint scheme there on Joseph Fabian's machine. Is that? I need to get a closer look at this. Is this the old 1998 Tyrrell paint scheme? Oh no, it's not. It's not his iRacing team's paint scheme. I thought it said Pia on the side. Yeah.
It's a pretty one to look at least.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of the 1998 Tyrrell. Fortunately, he's a lot faster than the 1998 Tyrrell.
He's certainly been this season. Well, let's see, there are some other drivers that are very quick. I can see that Galindo is one of the drivers that started his qualifying time last. Time he goes over the start-finish line at 1:34.9 is enough for P5 at the moment. The Bulgarian driver between Robert Grosser and David Wall Jr. Floris Bizar, the leader at the moment, is coming out of the last corner now. Let's see if he improves this time around. 1:32.5.
Now that was his first lap. He might have been able to improve. Johan, he'd been using Thomas Zieger's slipstream to try and improve his lap times, but I think he got a bit of the error wake in Sunset there. He got a little too close to Zieger, and that kind of pushed him out on exit and cost him a couple of tenths.
And it wasn't that much slower that he was in the end. He was only 0.03 of a second slower than his first lap time. So without that interference of Seeger, he actually might have been able to go a little bit quicker. Clayton McLeod just set a really good lap time. You see the Ferrari standing still on the inside of the track. Or Sam standing still. He's only 0.03 of a second slower than Floris Bizar. So barely anything separating Bizar and McLeod at the moment. Thomas Seeger is still sitting in P3. And I am kind of waiting for the lap times of Joseph Fabian. Scott Newton is currently sitting in P4. It seems he didn't have a lot of time to practice in this session. Seems like Scott Newton is trying to figure out how this FW31 feels here around Sebring.
Yeah, we are watching Newton around the circuit right now. As you mentioned, 4th fastest in qualifying. We ride on board as we are now deep into the second half of this qualifying session. But before he gets to the line, actually, Joseph Fabian is not too far ahead of him on track. So keep an eye on your timing and scoring at the top of the screen, because Joseph Fabian is about to come around Sunset and set his first time lap of the session, and then Newton will soon follow. Fabian across the line, and his first lap time is going to put him to the top at the 1:32.2. What can Newton do?
Yeah, Scott Newton is going through Sunset Bed now, long right-hander, 180 degrees back on the throttle there, running very wide, but he keeps it out of the wall. The 33.2 he had, he goes over the start-finish line. Not qualified as a lap, he might have had a little off-track there.
Unfortunately, he's got enough time for a couple more laps. I don't know if he's got enough fuel for it. Clayton McLeod just came across the line. He might be starting a hot lap there.
The driver that we haven't mentioned yet, David Roffa, is currently sitting in P4. The Norvef's driver is he's sitting in the pits at the moment, but that last lap time that he did, the 1:32.7, that's a really quick one, only half a second behind Joseph Fabian. And he's really putting his car in the mix of the likes of Thomas Seeger and Scott Newton.
Oh, another mistake from Michael Haflidason, and that's probably going to cost him a chance. No, he's going to have one more time to get a time lap in. We've got 4 drivers who are still waiting to see a time lap from: Neil Andrews, Dave Peterson, Kevin Jimenez, and Michael Haflidason.
Yeah, Michael Haflidason really has to stay calm now. Like I mentioned before, he almost has to put in a banker lap this time around, so he makes sure he at least has a lap time. Because with the amount of drivers that haven't said, as I say that, he comes out of the pits and he crashes immediately in turn 3. I think that Haflidason will now not have any time left to put on a lap time.
Newton just jumped up to second on the board with a 1:32.4. He's got enough time for one more lap, and Joseph Fabian has spun off the track, so that might end his chances of improving his time.
And maybe
I say might, he might still be able to get back around to start line in time.
while you were saying that Clayton McLeod is going a little bit quicker, he gets P2 away from Scott Newton with a 32.3, only 1/10 behind Joseph Fabian. Good run from the Canadian so far. He hasn't been that strong in qualifying this season. Oh, as he goes very hard into the wall there in the exit of turn 5. Luckily for him, he already set his quick qualifying time. Another driver that just improved quite dramatically, Antonio Ortiz Poveda, the Spanish driver, just elevated himself to P5 with a 1:32.7. The Spanish driver was only sitting on the edge of the top 10 until now. He's finally found some speed and really improved his lap time, overtaking David Roffe, Thomas Seeger and Robert Grosser.
Galinda improved and went to 10th position in the number 100 machine. Bichard just crossed the line. He improved his time, but not his position. He's still 4th. He'll still probably lead into the first corner.
Let's see Scott Newton. He's coming around the last corner now with only 5 seconds on the clock. This will be the last cut. Oh, he hits the grass there. That actually might be enough track. Let's see if his lap gets qualified. It doesn't get accepted. Off track for Scott Newton, and that hurts him in the last chance that he got to get pole position.
Yeah, he stopped when Fabian came across the line. He stopped. As a matter of fact, no one on the hot lap anymore. So let's go ahead and read off our starting grid here. Even though we got a couple more minutes left on the clock in qualifying, we aren't going to see any more hot laps. It's going to be Joseph Fabian starting on pole. His championship rival Clayton McLeod trying to make up points. He'll be starting from second, Johan.
Yeah, Scott Newton starts the race in P3. He really had to... he started, of course, the session with not a lot of practice, but in qualifying he got better. Qualified in P3, and he's being flagged by Floris Bissar. Now watch the Dutch driver at this race starts, because he's been really good at them so far, and he actually might overtake several people once the green flag drops.
Alright, so the 2 starts first, the 1 starts second, the 22 starts third, the 11 starts fourth. The 222 does not start fifth though. In fact, it's the number 10 car starting in 5th position of Thomas Ziega. Antonio Ortiz Poveda, one of the stronger drivers, actually row 3 full of stronger drivers towards the tail end of the season here. Poveda will be starting from 6th.
Row 4 is David Roffe on the inside. Qualifying from him so far, only 0.06 of a second behind Antonio Ortiz Poveda. Then there's a little gap, as you can see, towards Robert Grosser. 0.7 of a second between the two. Robert Grosser on the outside of row 4.
Yeah, and then very close together are the times on row number 5. Christian Kabanga only out-qualifying Aitor Sintaz Galindo by 0.02 of a second. They'll be wheel-to-wheel heading into the first turn.
The first driver outside of the top 10 is Stefan Henkel. He starts the race in P11, also not that far behind Anticitos Galindo. The gap between Stefan Henkel and Marcus Gestal isn't big either, only 0.02 of a second between P11 and P12.
Michael Overbay will be starting from the lucky 13th position. David Wall Jr. to his outside.
Then is Team Frieter Sport on row 8. Kevin Mills starts in P15. And his teammate Edgar Sancinelli starts the race in 16th.
And then to round out the field, we got 4 drivers who didn't turn the lap during qualifying. Those are Neil Andrews, Kevin Jimenez, Michael Hafliderson and Dave Peterson. Dave Peterson, of course, had that very unfortunate end to what was looking like a solid performance last week at Montreal. Alright, the cars are getting gridded up. In fact, we're only waiting for one more car, and then we can get the lights to come up on Stefan Henkel. Let's bring out that 112 car to the grid. Let's go racing here at Sebring with Fabian on the inside, Clayton McLeod to his outside, Scott Newton starting third, but definitely keep an eye on the number 11 car starting from 4th position on the outside of row number 2. Floris Bichard has been one of the stronger starters all season long. Still no sign of Henkel on the grid. He qualified 11th right in the middle of the field. I wonder if he's electing to potentially pit start, considering the fact he'll be right in the middle of all the action going on into what can be a very tricky turn 1 here at Sebring. We talked about all those bumps. These tyres are going to be cold. The track temperature isn't exactly hot, so they won't have a lot of grip helping them out. But Henkel is on the grid now, so we're about to find out. Let's get ready for 34 laps of racing action here at Sebring. Fabian on the inside, McLeod on the outside, the lights are off and away they go. Decent start by both of them. Once again, Bisha gets off to a flyer. He's going to try and cut down the middle between our two front row starters. He's not able to pull up alongside them enough though, and Fabian is going to lead out of turn 1. Bisha into second, still challenging for the lead. Deep onto the brakes, and if he doesn't overshoot, he might be able to pull this off. Boy, they're still wheel to wheel, and Bisha, it took him a few turns to pull it off, but once again, fourth to first at the very start.
Beautiful start from the Dutch driver. Joseph Fabian immediately being put under pressure by Clayton McLeod. That's towards the hairpin. On the outside, Clayton McLeod. He cannot make the same overtaking maneuver as Floris Bisha did a few corners before. Antonio Ortiz-Poveda behind him got by Scott Newton though. The Albanian driver elevates himself to P4 while Floris Bisha enjoys a great start of the race.
Man, it's one thing to be able to get a good launch off a race line. Some drivers spend a lot of time practicing that. But in that instance, Bisha was still in third place when they entered turn 1, and he absolutely just fought to get those positions. Meanwhile, Clayton McLeod making a pass on Scott Newton back there. Both of them have dropped it back a little bit from the start, and we got trouble. Marcus Gresdal was off.
Yeah, Marcus Gresdal had a contact early in the race. I think he suffered a little bit of damage, and I think that this second spin was caused by that. If we go back at single, it's actually side by side. Thomas Seeger is making an overtaking move on Robert Grosser. Robert Grosser losing 2 positions because it's also David Rother getting by him. That's I think for P6 overall, something like that in the field. Oh, Clayton McLeod getting very loose on the exit of Sunset Bend. Almost has to go to the pit entrance. He missed the barrier, but he saves it. He loses so many positions. He actually falls down towards behind Michael Haflidazen. Michael Haflidazen had an amazing start. He already made up 9 positions in lap 1.
Bisha in trouble. Bisha's gone off. He has lost momentum, and Joseph Fabian has retaken the lead.
It's not the first time this season that we've seen Floris Bisha made a mistake while leading the race. He's not that far behind Joseph Fabian, as he was very late on the braking, very wide through the hairpin. It almost gave Antonio Ortiz-Poveda an opportunity to get past him.
I don't know if it's possible to kill your tyres in one lap in this F1 car, but if anyone was going to do it, it was Bisha after how hard he fought to gain those spots on the opening lap.
Kevin Mills tries a move on Stefan Henkel. That's down the field, I think at P15 at the moment. Single foul once again. Stefan Henkel wins that battle. Kevin Mills has to follow behind him. We have 2 cars sitting in the pits at the moment. Aitor Sintas Galindo and Edgar Cincinnati both sitting in the pits as Joseph Fabian has a slowdown.
Yeah, he went off. He went off in that runoff area coming out to this back straight, and that is a very costly slowdown penalty indeed. It drops them all the way back to 4th, so Bisha retakes the lead of the race. Poveda now 2nd, Newton now 3rd, Fabian in 4th, still at the tail end. And by the way, moving all the way up into 5th in the opening stages here is Christian Kabanga. Nice start by him, although David both down the inside of him for 5th place. We've got Battle for 9th on screen here as well. There's just been a change for 5th, and now 9th place currently off. More trouble.
Fabian. Yeah, that's Scott Newton. Oh, several cars upside down. David Ruff is upside down. Several cars in contact, including Joseph Fabian there and Scott Newton.
Wow, a lot of dramatic action in the opening few laps of this race. Let's catch a replay of what happened here. We were watching the battle for 5th and the battle for 9th, but boy, Newton and Fabian battling for 3rd.
Yeah, you have to look at Scott Newton in front. There was almost a car spinning around, and to avoid that, Scott Newton went on the brakes, looped his car around, and David Ruffin behind him couldn't avoid him. He hit Scott Newton, And while he was taking his way, he was rolling his car upside down. Christian Kabanga also went around. There's another car that also got hit quite heavily there. That's David Grosser with bouncing. Michael Hafledesen got hit as well in that contact.
That takes out half of the cars that were running in the top 5. At the start of this lap, Michael Hafledesen was running in 9th place. He is now all the way up into 5th position. Likewise, Michael Overbay started this lap in 10th place, and he is now... Sorry, Hafledesen is up into 4th. He's now up into 5th. And more trouble for Clayton McLeod.
Yes, everything's going wrong for everyone at the moment, except Floris Bizar, who's still leading the race. Oh, Joseph Fabian tried an overtaking maneuver on the 30 of Patrice Paveda in turn 1. Couldn't make a stick, how easy to go over the grass in the exit of turn 1 to avoid the Spanish driver.
Alright, let's take a breather here. Now, top 5 is Floris Bichard. He lost it temporarily, but got it back when Fabian had a mistake. Pavetta is now in 2nd. Fabian was involved a little bit in all the chaos going back there, but he's came out well in 3rd place. Hafledesen started 19th after failing to turn a clean qualifying lap. He's made it up to 4th. And actually, there's been a change for 5th now, with Thomas Ziegler now up there ahead of Michael Overbay. Clayton McLeod running in 7th after almost putting it in the wall himself at the start. Dave Peterson started dead last on the grid. He didn't turn the lap in qualifying either. He's already up in 8th. And Stefan Henkel and Robert Grozer currently round out the top 10. We have only one car officially out of a race that I see. That's Sator, Sintes, Trelindo. But a few other cars in the pits I don't know if they'll be in a hurry to return.
Better for P10 is happening at the moment. That's the one between Stefan Henkel. Stefan Henkel and Dave Peterson. Oh, exactly. Yeah, he got by Rosser last time around. Robert Ross actually lost quite a bit of position after that overtaking maneuver. Stefan Henkel driving away and trying to put some pressure on Dave Peterson at this moment. The battle for P2 is still quite close though. Antonio Ortiz Perfecta and Joseph Fabian is probably one of the best battles that we have currently on the field. There's half a second between the two at the moment, but Joseph Fabian is lurking there and he's waiting for an opportunity to strike past the Spaniard. Floris Bizar in the meantime has already gapped the Spaniard by 3 seconds. There through the hairpin. That corner through Antonio Ortiz Perfecta, and Joseph Fabian had to take avoidance maneuvers there. No entry.
Yeah, it's showing you just how tricky, and we'll catch a replay of this, it's showing you just how tricky it is out there today. I mean, we've seen a lot of chaos in the opening stages, and if you've followed this series all season long, you'll know these are very good drivers behind the wheel of these Williams F1 cars. And here we see Pavetta and Fabian, two of the strongest drivers all season long, running into a race of trying not to make more mistakes than the other guy, and they're running in 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, that's actually very difficult to really make sure you're not making any continuous mistakes. You just calm down, make sure that you stay focused.
Oh, McLeod's in the wall! McLeod is in the wall once again. Another bad race for the driver of a number 1 Ferrari, and that is really going to open up Joseph Fabian's points lead.
In the meantime, Thomas Seeger is getting by Michael Hafledesen. Maybe we can go to a replay after we see what happened here with Clayton McLeod when Michael Hafledesen loses P4.
Very hard impact for McLeod. Will jump back up to this action that we've seen going on for 4th place, because you also saw at the top of your screen that Thomas Ziegler just set the fastest lap of the race. Definitely has a lot of good pace in that number 10 car.
He is actually... Yeah, let's go to a replay of that overtake of Thomas Seeger on Michael Hafledesen. Just to reiterate on what you just said, Thomas Seeger is actually 6/10 quicker at this moment than the leader of this race. So the German driver actually has a lot of speed. And if he can continue, he's only 10 seconds behind Floris Bizar. If he just keeps up this pace, he will close the gap towards Joseph Fabian and the rest of the people on the podium.
Alright, well, just like that, we've already clicked off 5 laps of this 34-lap race. And let's see if we can get through a lap without anything dramatic happening. My guess is no, because Joseph Fabian is running down Pavetta for second. And we got a couple more cars off at the back here, but I think as our drivers in second and third to make their way through Sunset, we might want to keep an eye out here because Fabian definitely wants to get this position back on Pavetta.
Yeah, but I don't think that he's close enough to try it here into turn 1. Takes a little look as Flores Bisa actually responds to that lap time of Thomas Seeger last time around. Besides a purple lap time now, Joseph Fabian, as you could see, couldn't make it stick. This is the point where he had trouble several times already this race through the S's of turn 3, 4 and 5. Now he had flew bit them towards hairpin. Doesn't get a lot closer though. He has to follow Antonio with roughly the same distance as they had before. And interestingly enough, both of these drivers are losing time to Flores Bisa. The gap toward the leader is over 5 seconds at this moment.
And a bit of a slide from Thomas Seeger in 4th place. He keeps it on track, but that's going to end his streak of setting fastest laps, showing you don't get to fly around in one of these cars lap after lap without a penalty in race trim, unless of course you're a very, very good driver, which a lot of these drivers are, and someone by the end of this race will prove me wrong, set on a bunch of flying laps and end up being the race victor. And if it does end up being Flores Bisa, who's currently leading this field by about 5 seconds, credit to him, because this is not the first time we've seen him get off to a great start during the race, but he has not been able to seal the deal. He hasn't been able to put a flawless race together all season long and bring home the victory. Maybe today will be the day that he's finally able to do that, but right now he might have to hold off Joseph Fabian, because Fabian is definitely thinking about taking second place back from Pavetta.
Taking a little look there on the inside of turn 1, doesn't make a stick and losing quite a few car lengths immediately after that. The racing line is really powerful through turn 1, and if you try and move the inside, it doesn't stick. You lose quite a few car lengths. As you can see, he's further behind Antonio Tisperfeda than he was last time around. And all the gain that Joseph Fabian had last time, he has to do it once again.
Alright, well, we've got a brief break in the action. We'll mention that 16 cars by my count are still in contention. Clayton McLeod, David Ruff, Edgar Santinelli and Aitor Cintas Gelindo have all run into early issues here at Sebring. The last car currently on the lead lap is Scott Newton. He's still out there, he's still in the race, but he's a minute behind the race leader. Definitely somewhere that he does not want to be. And now Overbay in trouble.
Yeah, it was on the exit of the hairpin. He just wasn't being put under pressure, but on throttle he couldn't control his car. As we go to a replay of that incident, you can see as he hits the gas and just cannot handle the horsepower, loops it around. Luckily for Michael, he doesn't have any damage, but he does lose 3 positions. Let's see which drivers go by him. There were Stefan Henkel, Marcus Gestal, Dave Peterson all find a way past him. So Michael Overbay back to P9.
And a bit of a bobble from Pavetta in second place coming out of Pavetta. I really thought that was going to be the opportunity, coming out of Sunset rather. I really thought that was going to be the opportunity for Fabian, but once again, he wasn't able to get a good exit himself, and he'll have to remain third from now. I wonder if there's got to come a point, Johan, where Fabian backs down and tries to play a different strategy to Pavetta if he can't get by him.
I would almost say that that's the thing that Joseph Fabian should be doing, because he is a lot quicker than Antonio Tisperfeda. He actually tries a little move there, takes a look on the inside of the hairpin, but that's probably the best strategy that he can do. He has to calm down, maybe save a little bit of fuel, and once the fuel window opens, immediately make that pit stop. Just make sure that you're not on the same strategy as Antonio is. Once you do that, you're driving around in clean air, you can probably not only overtake Antonio, but also move your way towards Flores Bisa, so that once everyone has made the pit stop, you're P2 and maybe even P1.
About quarter distance through this race, and we've got a nice little scrap going on around the tail end of the top 10 here right now. A good battle for 9th and 10th.
Michael Overbay after that spin is being put under pressure by Christian Kabanga, but I hope for Michael that he actually can fend off Christian and look forward, because the trio of drivers that just overtook him after that half spin aren't that far away in front. Dave Peterson, Gestal, Henkel, Overbay and Kabanga, they're all separated by less than 5 seconds, so it's all to play for in the bottom end of the top 10.
Let's not forget that Kabanga is also trying to bounce back here. He was running up towards 5th place before we saw that big incident early on in the race.
Yeah, maybe fun to mention as well that Kevin Mills just made an overtake. That was on Robert Grosser, overtake for P14. Actually, several drivers are not far away from each other as well, because let's see, just in front of Kevin Mills is the other Kevin Jimenez. Several drivers that were separated by just a little bit of track.
And lots of changes going on for position. 6th place was just taken from Dave Peterson by Marcus Gestal. The only position that hasn't seemed to have changed yet is this one for 2nd between Pavetta and Fabian, who just continue to follow each other around and now circulate in their 10th lap of the Sebring International Raceway course.
Joseph Fabian just has to follow here through turn 15
wow, sorry, Gestal spun and got hit by Henkel, and that has damaged both cars.
And Dave Peterson also got a little bump.
Gestal had just taken 6th place from Peterson. He was trying to pull away from him. You say Peterson got a little piece of this too, but Henkel definitely got the worst of it. He'd been running out there in 8th.
Yeah, it was a little bit reminiscent of what we saw a few laps ago with Michael Overbay, just on throttle. He couldn't control the horsepower, looping it around, and well, that was also road for Marcus Gestal. Hard hit, however, with the rifling driver in front of him, with Stefan Henkel. Stefan Henkel is still crabbing over the track, and I think that this is the day over for the German driver.
Yeah, he's going to try and bring it back to the pits, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be
missed an overtake for P2. Yeah, Joseph Fabian got by Antonio Ortiz Poveda in Sunset Bed last time around. The Spanish driver actually had a little half spin there. The gap between Joseph Fabian and the Spaniard is almost over 2 seconds at the moment.
And yeah, so Poveda has lost a bit of time to Fabian while all that chaos was going on in the middle of the field, and now the driver of that number 4 machine might have to worry about Thomas Ziegler closing in from behind.
Yeah, Thomas is really consistent at the moment, just putting down 34.2 last time around. He's doing 34.2 last 2 laps around. He's really putting the pressure on Antonio Ortiz Poveda, who he hasn't even mentioned at 34.2. His quickest lap time of the race so far is at 34.5.
Now it will be interesting as we see Scott Newton retake the fastest lap of the race. It will be interesting now that Fabian has a clean racetrack. What kind of lap times can he do? Is he going to be able to run down Floris Bichar for that lead? He ran at 134.3 this lap around, but I don't know how much interference getting by Poveda played during that. I'll give him one more lap to see if he can click off something impressive here.
Funnily enough, the quickest driver of the top 4 is the driver in P4. Thomas Ziegler is 0.3 of a second. Ooh, as he almost spins it around. Well, a little bit too much effort for it. Yeah, maybe pushing a little bit too hard, Thomas Ziegler, and all the lap time that he was gaining in the previous few laps, he immediately lost.
And so Overbay continuing to run ahead of Kabanga here. 2 drivers trying to work their way up the standings. Seeing less mistakes now these drivers have a few laps under them. I wonder if they needed those to kind of get their cars underneath them.
Just in front of this battle, Dave Peterson isn't that far away either, so I wouldn't say this is a battle for P7. I would say it's a battle for P6 with a few drivers just separated 2 seconds, 3 seconds between them. And what a run Dave Peterson is having so far, Sam. He has already made up 14 positions since the start of the race. Got a little bit close with the spinning car of Marcus Gestal that he had to avoid, but apart from that, Dave Peterson is just being incredibly consistent, not making any mistakes, really profiting from the faults of other drivers. He's in the, he's comfortably in the top 10 as we speak.
And the virtual fans on the front straight are giving a round of applause to Stefan Henkel, who somehow has driven that number 112 car all the way back around the circuit. I don't know what he's going to accomplish from doing that, because the car is crabbing sideways still and it ain't coming back out, but well done Henkel on getting that back safely.
The battle that's shaping up at the moment is between Neil Andrews and David Wall Jr. as they're coming out of Le Mans. David Wall Jr. in a horrible lap this time around. Oh, as Neil Andrews actually gets a slowdown there, cutting the corner of Le Mans a little bit. Well, that immediately ends that battle. But these two were actually very close with each other and had a good battle until Neil Andrews got that slowdown. He has to make up 2 seconds now to get to the rear of David Wall Jr. once again.
Well, the reason Wall actually lost 10 seconds that lap, Johan, I think he had a bit of an off-course himself. That's how we got reeled in by Andrews. Hopefully, for Wall's sake, he'll be able to regroup quickly, maybe pull away again. Gresdal, meanwhile, has pulled into the pits. I'm guessing half of this is a scheduled stop and half of it is also to get repairs from that contact that he had with Henkel not too long ago.
In the top of the field, still, as he's going out, Floris Bizar is still leading the race, but the gap between him and Joseph Fabian is slinking. It was 6 seconds a few laps ago. At the moment, it's under 6 seconds. 5.9 last time around, and Joseph Fabian is coming over the start-finish line. Only 5.1 seconds. 0.8 of a second. Joseph Fabian was quicker, so he's really taking giant leaps towards the rear of the Dutch car from him.
Yeah, we see at the top of your screen there, Fabian just ran the fastest lap of the race.
Floris Bizar actually lost quite a bit of time, it seems like this time.
I think it's because of the lap traffic. They're navigating their way around a bit of lap traffic right now. Fabian actually caught, he just caught Marcus Gresdal on the run through Big Bend. So Gresdal was able to pull over for him and let him by easily. So Fabian getting through this lap traffic a bit better than our race leader. Hey, that Andrews and Wall battle is back on again. I know Wall's only back here because of a mistake, but he hasn't been able to pull away from Andrews. He takes a look down the inside. This is for 9th place right now. And still trying to work inside here. Oh, no! Out wide, and he spins Wall. Andrews overshot the turn and then goes off himself. Definitely not how those two wanted that battle to end.
No, that was a perfect summary. Just overshooting the corner and bumping into David Wall Jr. I hope that both of them can continue without any damage, but it seems like Neil Andrews is struggling with a little bit. Yeah, a bit of wing damage for Neil Andrews. He probably will take a pit stop very soon then, so he can repair that wing, take his fuel to go to the end of the race. Now the battle for P6 is heating up a little bit as well. Dave Peterson is being run down by Michael Overbay. Christian Kabenga isn't that far behind him either. And Dave Peterson was actually taking some weird lines towards Sunset Bend to try and break the draft to the people behind him. This battle is heating up as we get closer and closer to the pit stops.
And let's not forget though, Peterson threw away potentially a really good finish, podium finish even at Montreal, with a mistake after having too much pressure from behind the last week. Wonder if he's adjusted his driving style since then. Right now it doesn't look like he has. He's still racing with Michael Overbay and Christian Kabanka hot on his heels. Although if I recall in the... and wow, he's way off the pace here. As Overbay going to try and make a pass stick on the outside of Peterson, and he is going to pull it off. Nicely done.
Just taking a look, Antonio Ortiz Perfeda actually lost P3 last time around to Thomas Seeger. The Spaniard had quite a bit of trouble getting around P3, corner 3 to corner 5 in the SS. And he lost several seconds in that process. The German driver of Thomas Seeger got by him. Now Thomas Seeger once again is in a podium position.
David Wall Jr. just had another big off. He's got some light damage on his number 43 car. He has rejoined the circuit, but lost a lot of time in a couple of positions, I believe. Yeah, he's down in 11th now. He had been running as high as 9th.
Ooh, Christian Kabanga having a good run out of the last corner. Cannot put it side by side with Dave Peterson, but this battle is heating up more and more. As Michael Overbay seems to be able to just gap Dave Peterson little bit by little bit. Going through the S's now. Christian Kabanga is really close. This is not really a long straight where you can maybe make a move in the hairpin, but if you have a good run, you actually might be able to. Christian Kabanga really in the gearbox now off Dave Peterson in the draft. Taking a look at the inside. He's close enough to put it side by side there. Dave Peterson brakes later, tries to get more momentum around the outside. Wow, great move there from Dave Peterson. That's a great defensive maneuver. And that outside line actually works for him. He stays in front.
Yeah, I want to go back on what I said actually. I think Peterson mentioned in the YouTube chat post to Montreal that he had the distraction at home that kind of forced him into his mistake. It wasn't necessarily pressure from behind. And sure enough, I'm starting to believe that more now because he's holding on to the pressure from behind that Kabanga is applying to him. But boy, that number 106 Buzzing Hornets Jordan car getting very close as they come out onto the back straight. This is where the good overtaking opportunities arise.
With a puff of smoke there from Dave Peterson, the exit of the corner. He stays in front for now. The Benson Heads car gets closer and closer. Not able to put it side by side there in Sunset Battle. The exit though, this is probably one of the best overtake maneuvers, but Christian Kabanga has enough of it. He has had enough of this battle. He's coming in for his pit stop, trying to make the move stick with some strategy. In the meantime, in the top of the field, Joseph Fabian has continued to close down the gap towards Floris Bizarre. Last time around, going over the start-finish line, only 4.5 seconds. It seems like Joseph Fabian is just few tenths every single lap quicker than the Dutch leader at the moment. And if you just can continue it like this, you can actually make the move stick with strategy during the pit stop.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a look back at Bichar's results throughout the season. I believe his best result so far this year has been second, and he got that at Suzuka and Spa, and those were both races very early on in the year, so it's been a while since he's been able to taste good success here in the Batteries Not Included Championship. We're halfway towards that checkered flag, and currently he holds at that 4.5 second lead over Fabian.
Last time around, Floris Bizarre had a very good lap, at 33.9, 2 tenths quicker than Joseph Fabian, and 1 tenth quicker than Thomas Seeger in P3 as well. Antonio Ortiz Poveda is just falling down a little bit more, 34.4 for him, so the Spaniard is not able to keep up with Thomas Seeger as Michael Havledason comes in from P5.
Turn, a lot of cars coming into the pits. A complete turn of fortune for Havledason. He seemed to be the only driver to get all of his wrecks out of the way during qualifying, and during the race, knock on wood, so far he's had a fairly decent opening. See if he can seal the deal in the second half of this race.
Yeah, the Scandinavian driver is not really looking forward to the top 4 at the moment. He's more looking backward. Michael Overbay got quite close in the last stint, just a few seconds between him when he made his pit stop. Let's see where they will stand once the pit stop are shaken out. Ooh, as Michael Havledason immediately makes a mistake coming out of the pits, going through the grass there, turn 3. I've actually done it a few times as well. Endurance racing at Sebring. Once you make your pit stop, you have some new tires, and that first braking moment going into turn 3, that's a really difficult one. And he just overshoots his braking marker there, loses a little bit of time, but he doesn't damage his car and he can continue.
But it's not the worst one. Kevin Mills did even worse than him. He got right over for pits and spun. I believe he may have even made contact with the wall.
Well, he 100% made contact with the wall there. As we go to a replay of that incident, I hope for Kevin's sake that he actually doesn't have any lasting damage from that. He actually does have lasting damage from that. He actually retired back to the pits. That's both Free2Sport drivers out of the race today.
So, this is a warning to all other drivers coming out of the pits. Be careful, your car is not going to handle anything like what it was coming in. Thomas Ziegler, he just turned his pits. Can he make pit exit right? Let's see if he gets through these first few turns okay. See, there we go. Doesn't drive it into a wall, doesn't drive it into gravel, doesn't drive it onto the grass. That's how a Formula 1 car's meant to behave.
Yeah, good exit there from Thomas Ziegler. No problems from him. I'm actually curious. This early pit stop, at least earlier than the other drivers in the top 4 from Thomas Ziegler, does that mean that his car was actually a lot lighter than his rivals? And that would explain his quicker lap times. We will see when Flores, Joseph and Antonio will make their pit stop. But Thomas Ziegler is relegated a little bit down the order with that pit stop that he just made. Flores Bizarre is coming through Sunset Bend now. Let's see, with 19 races laps in the books, he stays out for now. Joseph Fabian behind him, 4.9 going over start finish line, actually more than 5 seconds at the moment. Flores Bizarre leading on a flyer at the moment. Yeah, look at that, at 33.5 from Flores Bizarre. That's the quickest lap from him time from him. Really
that almost might be a sign that his fuel load is getting very light. Oh, good little scrap going on here.
Dave Peterson side by side with him, that's Neil Andrews. Christian Kabega just in front of them. There's several drivers battling for P7. Dave Peterson thinks the best of it. He lets the two in front fight it out, and that's a good decision with Neil Andrews spinning it around. That's in turn 11. Collier, no damage for Andrews. He loses quite a bit of track position there. There we go to a replay of that incident. You can see all 3 drivers here quite heavily fighting with each other. Dave Peterson, an orange car, just thinking the better of it. Let the other 2 cars fight, and on throttle. We've seen it several times today. Neil Andrews cannot control his car, loops it around, and luckily for him, no walls, no contact with the walls. He can continue after losing a little bit of time.
Meanwhile, Overbay has just done his scheduled stop, and he is going to rejoin the track in front of Haflidason, and that is all, of course, because of Haflidason's error coming back out onto the racetrack. If he hadn't done that, he would still be in front of Overbay. Meanwhile, another driver we have in the pits, but not scheduled, is Scott Newton. We talked that after his early troubles, he had tried to get back out on track and turn some laps. He was able to do that, but he kept having offs and spins, eventually put it in the walls. Definitely going to be a week to forget for Scott Newton. Joseph Fabian now in for his scheduled stop.
Yeah, let's see where he comes out in relation to Thomas Ziegler. There was a healthy gap between the pair at the pit stop. Let's see if the gap is still there once Joseph Fabian comes out. It's going up the jacks here, as you can see. 4 new tires for the Australian. Some fuel in his Williams Formula 1 car, and he gets going again. He goes out of the pits, while Thomas Ziegler still has to go through Sunset Bend. So I think that Thomas actually lost quite a bit of time in the pit stop, and Joseph Fabian has increased the gap and is keeping to put pressure on Flores Bizarre.
I don't know if this is a problem you can run into with the F1 cars, but for sure I think had this been a NASCAR stop on iRacing, they would have told Fabian he was too close to the wall there. I don't know where he expected his virtual tyre guys on the right side to go.
Ooh, good battle between Christian Kabanga and Dave Peterson. Dave Peterson did a little dummy move to try on the inside. Christian Kabanga defended there. Almost side by side through Sunset Bend on the exit though. Dave Peterson seems to be a little bit quicker than Christian Kabanga, but he cannot find a way past the Bussing Hornets car yet. Going towards turn 1 here. Getting a little bit closer under braking, but not close enough to put it side by side here in turn 3. Dave Peterson has to follow through the S's.
I wanted to double check. Okay, he's got Buzzing Hornets on the front, but on the rear wing it's Be on Edge, which was the other slogan that Benson Hedges used on the Jordan race car to get away from the no cigarette sponsorship rules that some tracks held. Flores Bichar into the pits for his scheduled stop. He had the 5-second lead over Joseph Fabian before all this started. Let's see what's like when he comes out.
As Flores Bizarre is coming out, Joseph Fabian is coming around the last corner. Flores Bizarre already is back on the front of through turn 1 once Joseph Fabian goes over the start finish line. I think that the gap might have decreased slightly there. The Dutch driver is still comfortably leading the race Well, not included Antonio Ortiz Poveda. The Spanish driver still has to make his pit stop. Once he does that, he will fall down the order once again to P3 or P4.
Looks like the gap actually increased a little bit. I'm seeing on our dynamic timing here about 6.5 seconds between Bichard and Fabian. But right now, Fabian, I think, would have a bit of an advantage because Bichard's came back out on track on very cold tyres. Meanwhile, this scrap continuing for 5th place. Overbay and Haflidason, both of them have pit, and Haflidason, who fell back here because of an error on track doing around the pit stops. He wants that position back, wants to make up for his mistake, and he's going to be able to do it. A nicely executed move there through the first sequence of turns, and he's going to take 5th place back from Overbay.
Yeah, great move from the Swede there. That's of course a little bit easier than driving alone, having a car just in front of you, knowing that you're quicker and just trying to bide your time and find a way past it. Michael Haflidason made it stick now. Now he has to concentrate because now he has no one in front of him for 29 seconds. He has to focus, make sure that he stays concentrated and doesn't make any mistakes. Antonio Ortiz Poveda still going along though. With only 11 laps to go, the Spanish driver still has to come in for a very short splash and dash at the end of the race. Ooh, he actually goes around almost. Antonio Ortiz Poveda almost loses the car there. It's on the exit of turn 5, loses quite a bit of time. He can continue though, but it loses him, I think, 3-4 seconds on Floris Bichard.
I don't think he was being hounded for that 3rd place before the round of stops. He should still come out around 3rd place, unless I'm mistaken there. Battle for 7th, by the way, might still be on with Kabenga and Peterson working their way through sunset right now. Kabenga still has a really decent gap over the orange 117. So we've got the battle for 5th on track, we've got the battle for 7th, and our battle for the lead isn't on yet. We're keeping an eye on the lap times of Bichard and Fabian. And as a matter of fact, Bichard has been able to pull away a bit from Fabian this lap, now up to 7 seconds. And sure enough, Poveda is coming into the pits. I had the feeling he might do this even if he isn't on fuel after his big slide on those older tyres. Maybe thinking, hey, these are starting to get away from me. Let's play the safe route and come in for my stop now. That might be what he's thinking, or he also may have just ran it out of fuel. So Poveda into the pits. Won't have to take that much fuel. Tyres will be quickly on and off the car, and he heads back out.
Yeah, but let's see where Thomas Seeger is. He's going over the start-finish line. This will be very close on the inside. There you see the Renault-colored car passing him. So Thomas Seeger gets back P3. And the Spanish driver goes from P1 to P4 while doing his pit stop. Look at the gap between them. Look at the gap between Thomas Seeger and Antonio Ortiz Poveda. That's completely lost because of the little spin that Antonio had here last time around. If that wouldn't have happened, he would have been in front of Thomas Seeger out of his pit stop.
Yeah, I was completely wrong on that. I thought Poveda would have easily got back out in 3rd place, but that wasn't the case. The battle for 7th is most definitely on as they head on down the front straight right now. Kabenga going defensive on the inside, forcing Peterson to go around the outside. Maybe he might try a crossover here on the exit of turn 1. It's a very long corner, but he's not close enough to pull it off just yet. But definitely this battle is on with just a tick over 10 laps left to go.
And not only that, Neil and Andrews behind them is closing in on them because of the heavy fighting of Christian and Dave. Only 2 seconds between Andrews and Dave Peterson at the moment, and if they keep fighting like this, it will be a 3-car battle for P7 very, very soon. On the exit here of the hairpin, good run for Dave Peterson there. He might actually try and move in Cunningham corner, turn 10, around the outside here. Braking a little bit later, can he make a stick? Beautiful move there from Dave Peterson around the outside of turn 10. He makes it stick and he gets away P7 from Christian Kabenga.
And talk about beautiful, look at the top of our screen, a beautiful lap put together by Joseph Fabian. He's able to eat into that lead of Floris Bichard once more, 6 seconds the interval between our two leaders.
And Joseph Fabian was 8/10 quicker than Floris Bizar with that lap time. Looking at the gap between them, going over start finish line 6 seconds. That's around 7-8 laps that you need for Joseph Fabian to catch up to the Dutch driver. So if you can keep up this pace difference, you will catch the Dutch driver with only 2 laps to go. Nieuwem Andrews is really haunting Dave Peterson now for P8. Christian Kabenga for P8. The Jordan colored car is really losing some positions. Andrews on turn 1 on the outside. Cannot find overtake with on the inside. Oh, great run there! Immediately making the up and under, cutting towards the inside of turn 3, and that's Nieuwem Andrews also gaining a position on Christian Kabenga for P8.
Isn't this a great thing about iRacing? Two of the greatest F1 liveries of the 1990s that never would have raced each other on track are battling wheel to wheel right now, because Kabenga not giving up that position and takes it back from Andrews. That Marlboro McLaren livery ended in 96. That Buzzing Hornets Jordan livery didn't come around until 97. And right now it's the Jordan with the upper hand. Kabenga in 8th, Andrews in 9th. But this is far from over.
Ooh, just in front of them, Dave Peterson loops it around. Both cars get by and Dave Peterson doesn't crash into the wall. But he loses a lot of time. Loses 2 positions as well as Nieuwem Andrews and Christian Kabenga keep fighting. Going towards this Bishop. Almost side by side here through the S's towards Le Mans. Christian Kabenga being haunted now. Less than half a car length between the two. Nieuwem Andrews trying to widen line through Le Mans. Long run from here towards Sunset Bend. Look at Christian Kabenga. Driving on the right side of the yellow line here to just defend us inside. Nieuwem Andrews cannot find his way past. Trying to widen line here through Sunset Bend as well. Maybe a little bit more momentum. Trying to put it earlier on the throttle. And it actually makes it work because he gets it side by side. He forces Christian Kabenga to stay on the inside. That's actually really good attacking maneuver from Andrews. It doesn't work yet. Same move as last time though. The up and under. He immediately cuts back towards turn 3 and he makes it stick. Gets past Christian Kabenga same way as he did last time around. Let's see if we can get a good exit here out of turn 5 because that was what happened last time around, which allowed Christian Kabenga to try and overtake and maneuver back into the hairpin. Christian Kabenga wins a little bit of track position in the draft. Not close enough to put it side by side here. So Nieuwem Andrews gets a position away.
And another position for both of them. That was Overbay who was off. He had been battling Haflidason for 5th. Well, Haflidason is going to win that battle because Overbay's in the wall. His car is damaged. It's not handling well. And he is losing multiple positions.
Yeah, that car is crabbing at the moment. I think that's race over for Michael A. Overbay. That's a heartbreak for him. The driver was, of course, in the top 5 of the championship basically the whole season long until last race. As we see a replay here of his spin. He was actually doing his best to regain that top 5 position in the championship with this P6 result he was currently on. But with this crash, it almost looks like it's race over for the American.
And let's not downplay also a battle for 3rd place going on in the closing stages here. Thomas Ziegler came out of pits ahead of Poveda after Poveda had that big slide while he was out there on old tyres. And with 7.5 laps left to go though, Poveda has run down Ziegler and the battle is definitely hot and heavy for 3rd place as we enter the closing stages of this race here at Sebring. Ziegler doing a marvellous job right now at defending against that number 4 machine, but they're about to come out to the back straight on the run down to Sunset corner and then of course the run down to turn 1, and those are going to be great overtaking opportunities for Antonio.
Yeah, Antonio is really setting himself up here through the S's towards Le Mans corner. Good exit is required from that corner to try and move into Sunset Bend. Let's see who gets a better exit here. Seems like Thomas Ziegler on the first hand of acceleration gets a better exit, but Antonio of course is in the draft at the moment. He will be able to use that to just close the gap towards the German in front of them. Under braking, different driving lines. A little bit more wide from Thomas Ziegler, a little bit more obtuse from Antonio Poveda. Doesn't help him though, he actually loses a few car lengths on the exit there as well. Thomas Ziegler is defending quite well now, with just good racing lines staying in front of the Spaniard.
Meanwhile, the battle that we've been watching between Kabenga and Andrews just broke up because it turned out Andrews had to come in to serve a pit stop for some reason there. The good news for Andrews is I don't think it actually cost him any positions, just a lot of time to Cabenga.
Yeah, the best battle we have in the field at the moment is this one for P3 at the moment. Thomas Seeger having a bad exit here out of the hairpin. Will that give an opportunity to Antonio? I think so, because they're going side by side. This is Fluter 9 towards Turn 10, towards Cunningham. The Spaniard is very late, very confident on the brakes. Thomas Seeger can maybe put it side by side here, because now he has the inside. No, he doesn't dare to do it. Antonio around the outside gets it, and he is back on the podium position. Into tower, Thomas Seeger cannot put it side by side again, and he loses the position, gets relegated to P4.
But now Pavetta is in the pressure position. He's going to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes in the closing stages and allow Ziga way back by. Meanwhile, let's check in with our two leaders as they cross the line with 6 laps left to go. They're now down to 5 to go. Bishar at 1:33.4. Behind him, Fabian at 1:33.3, so not a lot in it. 4.5 seconds is the interval between them. Fabian is slowly reeling Bishar in, but I think he's going to need a bit more than that.
Floris Bishar is controlling the race at the moment. He's just quick enough to know that it doesn't matter if Joseph Fabian wins a few tenths every lap, because with the pace that he is currently winning it, he will stay in front when the checkered flag drops.
Of course, no DRS or KERS in these cars. That's how the series gets its name. Batteries not included. But no matter what kind of car you're in, even your Toyota Camry on the interstate, there is the air in front of you is always a factor, and maybe Joseph Fabian, if he is able to get within a couple of seconds, might be able to pick up a bit of a slipstream off of Bishar. Hitting the closing laps, our race leader, Floris Bishar, less than 4-second lead over Joseph Fabian in second place. Pavetta holding third down. He's been able to build up a little bit of a gap over Ziga now. Havladason, ever since we saw the troubles for Overbay, he's got a bit of a quiet race going on in fifth. Although, as I say that, he really lost a lot of time to Cabenga last lap around. I wonder if fifth place could be up for grabs by the end of this.
Michael Havladason is just not very consistent after his pit stop, but last time around it wasn't his fault. He had to avoid the spinning car of Marcus Gestal that he was trying to lap, and that has lost him around 4 seconds. And that allows Christian Cabenga to really put the pressure on the Swede in his closing moments of the race, because Christian is a lot more consistent, around a second quicker than Michael Havladason so far this race. If this pace continues, Christian Cabenga will be able to try and move for P5 before the race is over.
Unfortunate news for David Wall Jr. fans, who was already having some troubles towards the end of this race. He has since lost the connection, so that's not going to be a good end to the day for Wall. Meanwhile, I want to go back on what I was saying about the battle for the lead not happening, because Fabian is starting. Oh, and as I say that, he actually has a bad sequence of turns there. He had got down to 3 seconds, and now it's gone back up to 4.
Yeah, and he was really helped by setting the quickest lap of the race last time around, a 1:32.7 for Joseph Fabian. That's a really good lap time. There was only half a second slower than his qualifying time, and that with a little bit more fuel and used tires that he's running with at the moment. So Joseph Fabian is having the knife between the teeth. Oh, but again he gets very loose there through Sunset Bend. He's really trying to give it everything he's got. But even though he's very quick, he actually loses a tenth to Floris Bishar, but just all those little mistakes adding up together in the end.
Well, the good news for our leaders and for our fans is that I don't think lap traffic is going to play any more of a role in this race. It is going to come down to a heads-up battle on track between Bishar and Fabian. Although I have a feeling that will please Bishar fans a bit more than Fabian fans. I think Bishar's just a little bit out of reach now.
I just want to put a little bit of screen time for Robert Grosser. He's driving around in P13 at the moment, 3 laps down, P11 at the moment. Robert Grosser was one of those drivers involved in one of the wrecks earlier in this race, but one of the things that he deserves today is the Bully Award, because he just continued out there on the track after repairing his car a few laps down, and he has already gained 4-5 positions since his spin or since his crash earlier in the race. Just keeps doing laps, keeps winning positions, and he's almost barging in the top 10 now, just continuing out there on track.
Yeah, he's in 11th place, and there's only 11 cars left out there, actually, such as being the attrition of this event. We had 20 starters. Kevin Jimenez is the next one ahead of him, rounding out our top 10 right now. Jimenez currently 2 laps down. 1 lap down is Neil Andrews and Marcus Gresdal, and then the rest of our top 7 are the 7 we've been watching scrap it out all race long. Bischoff, Fabian, Pavetta, Ziga, Hafadis, Kabanga and Peterson. And right now, those leaders just have 2.5 laps left to go. 2.5 laps and 4 seconds separating Bischoff from his first victory of the season.
Yeah, because last time around, Joseph Fabian once again was a tenth slower than Floris Bizar. The Dutch driver at the moment just really has an answer for everything that Joseph is throwing his way. Floris Bizar usually didn't lose it on track. He lost it himself earlier in the season by just making small mistakes. He has to keep it clean for 2.5 more laps. As you say, Sam, to grab his first victory from this season. Behind him in the battle for P3, Antonio Tispoveda has gapped Thomas Seeger. The gap between the two drivers is currently 3 seconds. Thomas Seeger doesn't have an answer to the Spaniard at this moment, and Antonio has to consolidate the place, stay calm, stay on the track, and finish for a little bit of silverware.
Now, as far as the championship is concerned, Fabian, obviously, this is going to be a huge points day for him over Clayton McLeod, who is going to be ranked in 17th place when the checkered flag drops out of a race early on. However, I think we're going to see a new driver second in the points, and my guess is that will be Antonio Ortiz Poveda, who has been doing well in the points all season long and is currently running out there in 3rd place. He's still going to have a lot of work to do in the final 3 races, though. They go to Road America next week. And in those last 3 races, he's going to have to hope for some misfortune, unfortunately, I think, is the only thing that will be able to stop Fabian from walking away with the silverware at the end of the season.
Yeah, Joseph Fabian has just been incredibly consistent. We were talking about it during the broadcast last week, that he won a few rounds at the beginning of the season, and after that, every time he got so close, getting P2s, but just not able to really get that final leap. Well, of course, last time around in Canada, he won the race. He got his first victory since 1.5 months in the championship, and again today, he just gets another podium position. So the consistency of Joseph Fabian, not necessarily the outright speed, but just being able to get podium after podium, that's really helping him get the lead in the championship at the moment, and will make it a very, very tough challenge for anyone who wants to take the championship lead away from him.
It looks like it will be another victory that's escaped him today, considering the fact he did have the lead of this race until a mistake early on that gave him a slowdown, dropped him back to 4th position. But to Bischoff's credit, Fabian has definitely not been able to run him back down.
No, he is not quick enough, and I'm actually looking at the P5 battle at the moment. Christian Kabanga got by Michael Hoffidason right now. I don't really can see where it happened. It didn't happen last time around, but at least the Swede is behind Christian Kabanga at the moment. But it seems just like early in the race that Michael Hoffidason is struggling to drive alone, but once he has a car right in front of him, he gets a little bit of extra speed and is putting Christian Kabanga under pressure as we're entering the last lap.
Here he goes, he's going to try and look to the outside of him, heading on down into Cunningham. Much later on the brakes, but he doesn't have a line as Marbles out there. He's off the racing line, but the pressure is definitely still on the driver of that Jordan. 1.5 laps left to go for these guys, less than a lap left to go for our leader, Bisha. This battle definitely the last battle left to solve today. The race that has seen a lot of fantastic battles around here at Sebring International Raceway.
Now let's see out here out of Le Mans. Let's see if Michael Hoffidason can close the gap and try and move in Sunset Bet, or maybe into turn 1 on Christian Kabanga, as first Bizar is turning his last lap of the race, taking a wider line through Sunset Bet. He gets closer though, because it takes more speed towards the start-finish straight. in the draft, trying different lines. Christian Kabenga tries everything he's got to break the draft. On the outside, Haflidason cannot make a stick as we go to Floris B-side.
Who's coming through Sunset right now himself, and finally Bichard not only gets a great start but a great finish to cap it all off and takes the victory here at Sebring. Fabian will finish 4 seconds behind him in second. Paveda should round out the podium and Ziga should get fourth, although Ziga's in trouble, I think. Yeah, Ziga's had enough track but gets back on. Let's go back to this battle for fifth.
Yeah, great battle between both of them. Christian Kabenga sliding through the hairpin, trying to defend from Michael Haflidason, but he stays in front for now. Michael Haflidason, he only has a few more opportunities to get by him. Oh, really late on the braking there. Little wheel on the grass. Loose on throttle as well. And that actually cost him a few car lengths to Christian Kabenga, but the Swede is quick at this point of the race. He's quicker than Christian Kabenga. He cannot find a way past him for now. Robert Grosser, that's lap traffic in front of them. It actually might play a factor as they're going towards the straight, towards Sunset Bed. Oh, Christian Kabenga having a bad run for the exit here. A little wobble from him. Mike Haflidason with a wider line out of Le Mans. Robert Grosser immediately moves to the inside, gives way to both of them. Seems like Michael Haflidason is a little bit too far away for now. He tries everything he got to stay in his draft, but Christian Kabenga stays in front for now. Through Sunset Bed, only one more corner to seal the deal for Christian Kabenga and get a top 5 finish here at Sebring. He doesn't make a mistake through Sunset Bed and he finishes in P5. Michael Haflidason has to settle for P6 after starting 19th place.
A great race by those two, honestly, a great race by a lot of drivers out there today. That was very fun to watch indeed, and the fun isn't over yet because we're going to get to talk to some of our top drivers here in just a few moments on the GSRC, and we'll give you a full race rundown. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back to Sebring. Well, we had a lot of fun covering today's race. It was a good one to watch. We hope you all enjoyed watching it. It was round 9 of the Batteries Not Included Championship here at Sebring International Raceway. And the race winner, with a fantastic start and just a good performance all race long, was Floris Bichard. He had 3.7 seconds over Joseph Fabian by the time the checkered flag dropped. Antonio Ortiz Poveda rounds out your podium with another solid performance. Likewise for Thomas Ziega, another good race, comes home in 4th. Christian Kabanga has a solid performance likewise, started 9th, finishes in 5th, and Michael Hafler-Dayson, a much cleaner race than what he was what it looked like he would do after his qualifying performance. He brings home in 6th place. Dave Peterson rounds out our cars on the lead lap in 7th. Neil Andrews was the first car 1 lap down in 8th. Behind him was Marcus Gresdal. And Kevin Jimenez did a lap in reverse to bring it back to the pits after it was all said and done. But he finished the race in 10th place.
And then it's P11, the Dolly Award going to Robert Grosser after his spin. He continued out on track and got, I think, 6 or 7 positions doing so. Good result for him in the end by just continuing after some unfortunate moments at the beginning of the race. And then it's a whole swap of drivers that didn't finish the race. Michael Overbay and Devin Wall Jr. both 8 laps down. They finished in P12 and P13 respectively. Scott Newton, after a spin somewhere at halfway the race, he comes home in P14. Sport driver Kevin Mills, he qualifies and finishes the race in 15th place. Stefan Henkel crashed his car early part of the race. He's in 16th. Clayton McLeod, David Roth, Edgar Sancinelli and Aitor Citas Galindo all retired as well at the beginning of the race.
Alright, so let's talk to some of our finishers here today, beginning with our race winner, Floris Bichard. And here we have Floris. First off, congratulations, your first win of the season.
Thanks. That was amazing fun, and I found some Red Bull that actually doesn't taste like battery acid, so that might have actually helped. Because I needed that for Interlagos, and yeah. Oh, but yeah, that felt amazing.
Well, we've noticed throughout the season you tend to be superb on starts, but today was something else. Not only did you get a good launch off the line, like we've known you to do throughout the year, but even entering turn 1, you were still in 3rd place, and by the time you came out of turn 5, you were in the lead.
Yeah, I think I have some slight netcode to thank for that with regards to Joseph Fabian, for which I apologize, but there was literally a meter between us. But that was going into 4 or something. But at the start, Clayton tried to go right while I was going right, so I had to go left, and we ended up going into turn 1. I think it was 3 wide, actually, which is not something you want to see, especially being in the middle. And then getting to turn 2, I was next to Joseph, and then in turn 3, we had some slight netcode, which bumped him back to like a second or something, and that just gave me the time to just get all the apexes for the next couple of corners and build a lead. And yeah, that was amazing. I wasn't really expecting that at this track, but yeah, that was good fun.
Well, you were able to bring home the win for the first time this season, but it's not obviously the first time you've been in the lead of a race. As we mentioned, you're normally good at getting starts. What do you think was the key here to not only get P1 at the start of a race, but be able to hold on to it throughout all 34 laps?
Again, it's because I have quite a bit of experience with like the last build on this car when it was originally raced, which really helped with the launches. I think Joseph ran it a couple of years before that and then stopped running it for some reason. I think he quit iRacing for a while. So yeah, I know how to start the car. And I'm more than willing to show the replay file of how I actually do it, because apparently people don't believe me when I say I only use a throttle. Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened yet in the first couple of turns completely. I had a quick look before coming in here, but I need to do some further checking to see what actually happened, because it hasn't really hit me yet.
All right, well, we'll let you go then. Give it time to sink in that, you finally pulled off a race victory, and who knows, maybe you'll be able to get another one next week when we go to Road America.
Hopefully.
All right, well, that was our race winner, Floris Bichard. Just a few seconds behind him on the road was Joseph Fabian, and Stefan, you've called up with him.
Joseph, welcome to the booth. Congratulations getting P2 here today. Are you happy with the result today, or are you thinking like what could have been if you only got by Floris Bichard at the end?
Yeah, bittersweet. I mean, I'm happy for Floris. He deserves to get a win in this series. He's been very good for many races and just had that sort of one mistake a race that might have cost him. But, I mean, I think my concentration... I think I lost the race really in the middle, towards the end of the first stint, start of the second. I got myself, I wasn't concentrating or something. I assumed I had damage because I could just see I was losing time to my own laps that I'd done earlier in the race, and I assumed the only reason would be I've somehow got damage, and turns out I was just driving slowly, and I only really got onto that maybe halfway through the second stint, and then I started putting in faster laps and reeling him in, but I didn't have enough time. I only really sped up with 10 laps to go, and I had maybe 7 seconds to catch, and it was just a bit too much in the end. And then in the last few laps, he was very good as well, so he really stopped me from catching him.
Yeah, he really responded in the last laps to your sudden increase in pace that you saw after your pit stop. Now, I want to take you to a moment that happened before the pit stops, actually in the first laps. At one point, you were actually managing to get by Floris Bichard. You were leading a little bit, and then you suddenly had a little off moment in, I think, Le Mans corner that was, and I think, got a slowdown. What exactly happened there? Did you just lost control of the car in the middle of the corner and had to take an off track to not spin?
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a newbie problem because it was on lap 2, and obviously I'd just come from qualifying, and you've got your brake markers for qualifying, and you're meant to. Well, I try to take it back by 10 meters on every corner, and I just hit my brake marker that I hit in the qualifying lap just before, and being 60 kilograms heavier, I just flew off the edge of the track, and that was that. So. Just one silly mistake. Luckily, I think I managed to catch up, and some people ahead of me had mistakes. But yeah, it was a bit of a mistake there.
In the end, you come home with another podium position. So I think that's a good way to end out the race, at least. Congratulations for getting P2, Joseph. We hope to see you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
That was Joseph Fabian coming home in P2. Now, in the meantime, Sam, you have caught up with the driver that finished in P6, Michael Hafledesen.
Yeah, Michael, we were watching you in qualifying thinking, oh boy, this is going to be one of the drivers who's going to make our broadcasts entertaining to watch. But boy, you really got it under you when the race started, and an impressive performance out there today.
Wait, so you did want me to spin more? I thought my overtaking was funny enough.
No, it was... But boy, you're just struggling out there in qualifying, it looked like. But boy, when that when the lights went out, man, that was a good race out there you put on. I give you props for that.
Oh yeah, I'm speechless myself because in the qualifying, as you saw, I struggled a lot. I didn't get any lap. In the practice, I got 1 or 2 laps. I didn't think much. I just wanted to finish the race, and then just the beginning of the race was total chaos, and somehow I managed to find my way through everything. And I just ended up in P5, and then I made a spin, letting Cabanca through.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't over. I mean, you say you got through all the carnage early on, and then things started to settle down a bit. But you were involved in scraps there in the top 10 all race long. Which one was the one you remember the most fondly? I mean, was there one out there that you're like, man, this is actually kind of fun battling this guy?
Definitely towards the end, the last 3 laps with Cabanca, when I was chasing him down, trying to overtake him, we had a really nice scrap.
He came out on top of that. He placed 5th at the end, where you came home with 6th, but still 13 positions up from where you started on the grid. Definitely not a shabby race out there, Michael. how much... I've got to be honest, I don't think I'm familiar with you having raced in this series before. How much experience do you have with this Williams?
I have one race before, I think it was at Imola. I think I finished P12, 1 lap behind. So I'm very new to the car, but I know Johan, you know me well from ABL and all that. So, I mean, I've been racing Formula cars for a while.
All right, well, hey, 12th at your debut, 6th today. If you keep that pattern up, you should bring home a podium finish next time out at Road America. All right, well, thanks for coming to talk to us, Michael, and we wish you all the best next time out at Road America.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, so that was our 6th place finisher. One more driver to catch up with here, Johan. Unfortunately, it's a driver who didn't have a fantastic race out there today.
Yeah, Scott Newton, welcome to the booth. Scott, you started really well in qualifying. You qualified in P3, but in the race, things didn't go to plan.
Yeah, hey, Johan. To be honest, I was actually a bit disappointed with qualifying. Even though P3 is a solid starting position, I caught the 1X on the exit of the final corner. I was about half a second up in my time, so potentially I could have got pole position, but that pretty much set the tone for the race. And unfortunately, I locked the rears into turn 2 on lap 3, and unfortunately, Dave caught the front of my car, and that put him on his roll bar. But it was just, with Sebring, it's such a difficult track to get the setup right, and unfortunately it caught me out with the limited testing that I had today or throughout the week.
Yeah, because what was exactly causing that? Was it just like lack of practice, or maybe the setup not entirely to your liking that you were struggling with, or did you suffer some damage in that lap 3 contact that just hurt you further down the race?
It was a combination of everything, I think. With my testing earlier in the week, I was focusing mainly on the qualifying setup just to get a solid baseline. I know that low 31s were possible in qualifying. It was just a matter of hooking it up. But just due to the nature of the low ride height that you actually need to generate most of the downforce for this car, but also getting the combination of the springs and the dampers and the gearbox right as well, because if you run a too short gearbox, then when you send the power to the rear on acceleration, it just loops the car. So you got to try and get everything in the right place. And sadly, I didn't manage to do that. So testing's already started for Road America for next week, and hopefully I'll be able to resume normal service and stay up the front this time.
Very good. We'll hold you to that. Scott Newton, thank you for talking with us.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers for that.
Well, Johan, I would definitely say this has been one of our more entertaining races to cover throughout the season. Battles all race long. A lot of drivers, it seems, who haven't necessarily had experience with this Williams F1 car, but have been learning it as the season's gone on, and we're ending up with a lot of good, healthy competition as we enter our final 3 rounds.
Yeah, like you said, this was just a great battle all field around. We saw him for the top part, for the podium, down the field. A lot of drivers just getting more and more used to the car. And one of the things that Scott just mentioned, it's a very difficult track, Sebring, so I cannot blame a few of the drivers for just having spins here. I'm very curious how it's going to be next time around in a track that might be a little bit more difficult to handle for most drivers.
Well, we will find out in 1 week's time at Road America. Before we head out for today's broadcast, we would like to thank Clayton McLeod as well as all of the organisers and the competitors of the Batteries Not Included Championship for coming out here this morning and putting on a great show. We would also like to thank all of the companies that provide us the software and hardware for our broadcasts, and there you can see them listed on your screen. Additional thanks goes out to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde who provide us with our music. You can see the screen for how to get a hold of more of their work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Sean and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel, and Instagram at GSRC_gram. All of the upcoming races for our other series are listed on screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar and don't miss another second of exciting racing action. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.